Welcome to the next video of the Journey of Your Game series. In the last video, we were talking about knowing when to exit, which I suppose is when things aren't going so well. I'm going to completely flip the script on this one, Das. I'm really looking forward to this chat, which is how do you deal with success? And this is something that's been phenomenal to witness as a facilitator of the game. When people end up with a big stack of chips at some point of the journey of their game, and it's really quite interesting to see how people approach this. You know, they're like big stack of cash, so to speak, metaphorically, they're loaded up. And now what? How do you deal with this now? Because it comes as a surprise to some people. And it's really quite interesting, the strategy. So over to you, Das. Let's open up this can of worms and explore maybe the different sort of archetypes that we've seen and you know, how do people actually manage this?
So I would say the key here is, what emotion do you experience when you achieve success? Both in the game and in life, of course. I'm sure we can stop making that comparison. It's almost like that metaphor is presupposed now. But essentially, dealing with success is how does it make you feel once something has landed in your lap? And we will behave accordingly in a way that either nullifies that emotion if we don't feel we deserve it, or expands upon it if we feel like we do, right? So if achieving chips makes you feel proud and you believe you deserve to feel proud, you'll continue to make more chips. If it makes you feel guilty for having success, you'll find a way to sabotage the success in order to get away from that feeling of guilt. Does this make sense? So I think it's just fascinating from a narrative perspective, from a story perspective. We've watched probably, I would say we've watched two people achieve success in the chips game, and it was like a roller coaster. They got it, then it left. They got it, then it left. They got it, then it left. There were probably two others up to this point, having played the game in the small business groups that we played at this point, that achieved success and were able to not only hold on to it, but use it to generate more success and more wealth, and happy to do so. Like it was natural for them that is the path that things would take. You achieve money, which builds on money, which builds on money, which builds on money, and money builds on money. And that was just like part of their psyche. There was no
compounding
friction around, there was no friction around that. There was no difficulty around that. There was no emotion around that. That was just how life works.
Yeah.
You know? So money is all psychology. Money's such a psychological thing. It's so fascinating from this perspective. But I think the ultimate question to ask yourself here when dealing with success is, what emotion does this bring up in me, having this amount of money? And is that emotion something I want to feel more of, or that I want to get rid of? If it's something that you want to get rid of, the quickest way to do that is to get rid of your money. How that works in real life is online shopping, giving the money away to charity just willy-nilly, finding a way to get more speeding fines magically out of nowhere. You know, like there's no coincidences here when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, all of a sudden I got a whole lot more bills.
Yeah. That's it. Very good. I have to pay for my golf membership at this time of year magically. You know, like
strange.
It's there's no coincidences around it for sure. But what do you think, Steve, when it comes to dealing with success? What have you typically found is the key thing that gets in people's way? Have you found in the real life, particularly in the journey of sales? Sales is all about, sales success, so to speak. What have you found has been the trip up once people achieve or are hitting records is probably the best way to describe it in the sales world?
Yeah, I think it's when they fall out of like appropriate metrics around, I suppose, fair exchange. And this has been a concept that's been thrown around a lot, but I've seen this help a lot of people, myself included, that the appropriate goal here, the appropriate fair exchange, as many others have said over the years, is 51-49.
Yeah, nice.
And when you're giving 51, but you're also receiving 49, you've got yourself a really solid business model where you're always giving more than you're receiving, but you're also still receiving your fair share. And so I think it's a really good thing to actually be mindful of that. when those ratios are a little bit or too imbalanced, some people get in the habit of being way too charitable and just give 90%. And then at the point of receiving, they go, no, it's all good. It's all good. No, it's all good. I couldn't possibly take any money for this. What will happen eventually is the funny part about fair exchange. If it's not in fair exchange, you will come to resent whatever side you're on, and you'll always find a way to pay it back. This is what I've found, right? So when you become really charitable, let's say you're at 90%, but you're only willing to receive 10%, you'll come to resent your charitable nature. Most of the time you'll feel like you're getting taken advantage of. And then typically what happens is you'll find someone to pay for that. And sometimes you'd be like, hey, that's it. I'm charging way too much. I'm not delivering anything on this next one because I need to get it back to fair exchange.
I need to get mine.
And then it's just not good business. It's not good juju, right? The opposite end though is sometimes people receive far more than they're giving. And so they move into the opposite. It might be 80% receiving, 20% giving. What happens is the resentment still happens, but most often it'll be towards the person that is receiving the least. So in this case, your clients are going to start to resent you because they're not feeling like they're receiving the value that you're charging for. In this case, they're going to make you pay for it. They're going to cancel. They're going to someone will always pay. This is what I've found with this fair exchange philosophy. And so when you realize this, you start to be wise. Or at least
can you delve a little further into that? Someone will always pay. I know you've given huge context here, but that sentence sounds super critical.
Yeah. So someone will always pay. This is the game of balance and particularly fair exchange. So let's say you're watching this right now and you've got a client that's paying you really, really well. And you just know in your heart of hearts, you're out of fair exchange. You're not delivering to the level that you're getting paid. The client will make you pay for it. They might all of a sudden expect you to answer their phone call at 1 a.m. and then loathe you when you don't answer. Or they'll load you up with a whole bunch of tasks that you don't like doing, but they're going to make you do it. Or they're going to cancel and remove the cash from you whatsoever. Someone will always pay. And in this case, it's typically the flow back in the direction of getting it into fair exchange, if that makes sense, right? And so there's this...
It's fascinating, man.
There's this element of resentment that happens if you're out of fair exchange. And the same thing with relationships, right? So if you're out of fair exchange in a relationship, a perfect relationship, business partnership, whatever it may be, is that you find yourself in 51, giving 51 and receiving 49. And now when you get two people in a relationship, both having the same intention of, I want to give more than I receive, but still also receive it an equal and fair exchange, but always giving the other person a couple extra points, a couple extra pats on the back, a couple extra cups of tea, a couple extra taking the bins out, you're conscious. What happens is
Guess what Steve's wife got him to do last night.
You all level up together. Okay. But in a relationship, if one part of the party is giving 80 and the other person's giving 20, guess what? You're going to start to resent the other person. Okay. Resentment is the key when it's not fair.
So are you suggesting that once people achieve success in the sales game and they're sitting there with a big stack of chips, if they don't feel they've deserved them, they'll throw them away?
They'll resent the chips and they'll work out a way to get it back to fair exchange. Hence why it's psychologically, if you don't feel like you're giving a lot of value and all of a sudden you land with a whole bunch of stacked chips that you don't feel like you've rightfully earned or deserved, you will always find a way to get rid of them because you'll find a way to get back to 51.49.
Brilliant.
And so this is the game. Now, where it can happen, though, this is where it goes wrong. You'll notice that the key here to good, fair exchange is to not actually focus on self, but focus on others. Think about it. We use the analogy of a relationship, and relationships level up in a positive way when both people are equally setting themselves an intention of giving more than they're receiving.
Yes.
That by nature is, where is the aim?
It's always at them.
The aim is always outside of yourself. And when people are both doing that towards each other, it goes up. It goes up beautifully. Business is no different. When the aim is about giving, When the aim is delivering value, when the aim is listening, when the aim is serving, and you consistently doing that. But here's the secret, when you're talking about the other trip up, then when life presents you with some chips, you must accept them.
Go on.
Because as soon as you don't, you've now triggered yourself out of fair exchange.
And you'll grow to resent something.
And you'll grow to resent that, shit, I didn't get that money. I actually deserve that money and now I haven't. And now I feel worse about myself because it shows that I don't believe in what I'm doing and I don't back myself, and get in this big mind spiral.
Yeah.
And so the next client you come against, you're like, well, that person, I didn't accept the money from that person, so I'm going to tack it onto their invoice. And now you're out of fair exchange with that person. So they'll come to resent you. See how it's a big trigger?
Wow.
I find people are forever trying to feather the throttle to find what 5149 is. So the best principle I live by, I think is a good piece of advice, is seek to give value first. Make the aim outside of yourself. Aim with accuracy, aim with purpose. But when you're doing this, when someone turns up and says, I would love to give you money, you must accept it. Meaning post value delivered, you must accept it.
Makes sense.
Otherwise,
that's some of your finest work.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, that's extremely insightful. Yeah, for sure. Love it.
So that's hopefully some principles for people to work with.
Totally. Questions, comments on this one, put them below.
I'd love to know this. I'd love to know examples from people or comments, if you're willing to share, of times when you've felt out of fair exchange. And
Yes.
what happened after that? I'd love to hear the stories around it.
Yeah, totally. The stories are what cement learning as examples for people to look at and go, yeah, that makes sense. That rings bells for me too.
Yeah. Awesome. Comments down below. See you in the next video.
See ya.